If the hands are not there, body cannot perform an action. If eyes are not there, one cannot see. If ears are not there, one cannot hear. This body is totally dependent upon the sense organs for its functioning. So the body would not be had the sense organs not been there. Therefore, indriyanam abhave sharira chalana abhavat. Therefore we say that consciousness that you experience in the body is on account of sense organs. Had sense organs not been there, this body would not have been conscious also. So the consciousness to the body is imparted by the sense organs, and therefore sense organs are Atma. Sharira chalana bhavat na sharirasya atmatvam kintu vakshimana shruti yuktibhyam shruti chakshuradeh tehvacham uchuhu. Yukti again the same. That sense organs are conscious entities, and that is where asmat pratyaya is there, and therefore and anubhava is what? Kanoham, badhiroham. Kana means one-eyed I am, badhiroham, deaf I am. Ityadi anubhavacha indriyanam atmatvam iti vadanti. They say that indriyani or sense organs are Atma. We don't bother much about refuting them. Then the question is, when you say sense organs are Atma, please tell us, all the 10 sense organs together become Atma, or each one of them is separately Atma? If together they are Atma, then if you lose one sense organ, then Atma must be lost. But that's not the case, because even then eyes are not there, a person continues to function. That shows that sense organs as a group is not Atma. And if each one of them is Atma, then there are 10 Atmas here, then each of them will fight with the other. 2 is enough. You don't require 10, And so, this body will not last even for a minute. Because one leg will say, I want to go forward, other fellow will say, I want to go backward. And then they will fight, and the deha will be split apart. And so, this doesn't make sense. How? I don't know that such opinions really existed or not. But anyway, they are presented here. Always they are presented. So somewhere they may be there. But people cannot be so intelligent as this to arrive at this conclusion anyway. But after all they do, when people say the body, when the Lokaitika say that the body is Atma, I guess there may be people who are a little more intelligent than them. Then other fellows then refute. So we don't have to do anything. We just have to watch this whole debate. Each one eliminates the other fellow, and then finally Shunyavadi remains whom you eliminate. This is the way, this is a method of these arguments. Anyetu ukta shruti yukti anubhavanam avasatvat. Then they say that all these yukti are all abhasa. Why? They present another Shruti. Manaha uvacha. Elsewhere the mind said. So mind is there, and that is a conscious being, and therefore that is Atma, they will say. Mama indriyani iti bheda pratipattehe. And I also say that my eyes, my ears, my hands, my legs, and so with the sense organs, not only there is aham pratyaya, there is mama pratyaya also. Bheda pratida, where mamatva, mamakara is there is a bheda. I am always different from what is mine. Swapne chakshurādindriya vyavahara bhavepi ahamidi atmani paripurna pratyayat. In swapna or the dream, the sense organs are not there. We don't function through these eyes and ears and hands and legs. So swapne chakshurādindriya vyavahara bhavepi. In the dream, there is an absence of all these indriyas as chakshuhu, etc. And even then, I am very much there. Because in dream also, there is a full awareness of myself as an individual self. In the dream, even though I am devoid of the gross body, this gross body, and I am devoid of all these sense organs, even then, my I-ness is not in any way affected. It's not that I find myself a half being in the dream. I find myself a full being in the dream also. So the fullness of the Atma is not in any way affected by the absence of the gross body in the sense organs. Therefore we say that they are not Atma. And so you must know all these arguments anyway, because people will ask you questions, or you yourself may have to think, It's nice to know. So, chakshurādi indriya vyavahara bhavevi ahamiti atmani paripurna pratyat manas sambandha bhave indriyanam chalan abhavat. And they say that even the sense organs are able to function because of the mind. Eyes are able to see only when mind is behind the eyes. Ears are able to hear only when the mind is behind the ears, and so forth. And therefore, sense organs are not independently functioning. Sense organs can only function when they have the support of the mind. So, manas sambandha abhave indriyanam charan abhavat. That's the reason why in deep sleep or even the dream, there is no movement of this, because the mind is not there behind them. Na indriyanam atmatvam kintu vakshimana shruti yuktibhyam. But then by the shruti and the yukti that we stated, manah uvacha, that kind of a shruti, that mind said. So shruti says that mind said or mind spoke. Means shruti presents mind as a conscious being. Therefore it can possibly be Atma. And then yukti also similarly. And anubhava. Sankalpavanaham, vikalpavanaham, ityadi anubhavacha. And we experience ourselves as what? Sankal. I decide now. Then there is a doubt. Again there is a decision. So I find myself a vacillating person. So going like a pendulum from one decision to another and back and forth. This is what I generally find myself. And therefore, by that experience also I say, Manaha Atma iti vadanti. So these intelligent people come to the conclusion that the mind is the self. In fact, in the West there is always this question between the spirit and the matter, So mind is only taken as spirit and body is taken as matter. And so between the spirit and matter, which is Atma? So this debate is always there. Many people don't even accept mind as an existence, as an entity separate from body. So these people say mind is the Atma. Then aparedo ukta shruti yukti anumananam abhasatvat mama manaha iti bheda pratidehe. Other fellow says, no, mama manaha, my mind. My mind is happy, my mind is unhappy, my mind is sharp, my mind is dull, and thus we experience mind also as mind. That shows that mind is different from I. Aham manaha iti apratidehe. And nobody says, I am the mind. That kind of pratiti is never there. I am sukhi, I am dukhi. That dharmadhyasa is there. But that pratiti that I am the mind is nobody has. And so actually you don't experience that aham bhava in the mind directly. Then kartru abhave, it should be not kartru bhave. Kartra bhave, it should be karana shakti abhavacha. The mind also is karanam. Meaning mind actually is an instrument. And that instrument cannot function unless a karta or an agent is there. So, sense organs are also instruments. Mind also is an instrument of perception. And mind also is directed. Come on, mind. So, suppose we are sitting there on the couch and somebody rings a bell. Then, what process goes on? I hear the sound of the bell. Then I tell my mind, come on, open. Then mind tells the legs, come on, walk. And that's how I go to the door. Suppose my mind doesn't think of opening, then legs will not move, and if there is no one to direct the mind to open it, the opening will not take place. But someone directs the mind, open it. Mind says, I don't want to open. Come on, open it. That sankalpa vikalpa may go on for a while, and then someone decides, no, I must open. Then that mind is made to direct the sense organs to carry out that task. And that is how a karta must be there behind karanam. Like a wood splitter. So when he splits the wood, he has an axe in his hand, but axe is karanam, that wood splitter is the agent or the karta. Without karta, the karanam cannot come into functioning. And inasmuch as manaha is karanam, a karta is required. And so, kartru abhave, karana shakti abhavacha manasahana atmatam kintu. Therefore, mind is not the Atma. Because it doesn't enjoy the activity on its own account, the activity of the mind is on account of someone else, and that should be properly the Atma. Kintu vakshimana shruti yuktibhyam aham karta bhokta ityadi anubhavacha buddhi atma iti vadanti. And so aham karta bhokta, I am karta, I am bhokta, and these are the dharma of the buddhi. So these people say that buddhi or intellect is Atma. The yoyam vijnanamaya, etc. इतरे तो उक्त श्रुति युक्ति अनुभवानाम आभासत्वात् मम बुद्धि इति प्रतीदेः aham buddhi iti apratidehe. People say my intellect. Nobody says I am intellect. That kind of pratiti is not there. But very often we also say my mind is not functioning. Today my intellect is dull. And so intellect also is appreciated by as mind. That shows that it is different from I. न बुद्धेः आत्मत्वं किन्तु वक्ष्यमाणश्रुतियुक्तिभ्यां सुषुप्तौ न अन्यदस्त्येव. In sushupti, the deep sleep, the buddhi also is not there. Nahamapi asam. Then the Shunyavadis come and say, Sushuptau na anyadasti. In the deep sleep, I don't have the knowledge of awareness of anything other than me. Nahamapi asam. Nor was I there. In the deep sleep, I don't have the experience at the time of deep sleep that I am in a particular place or in a given situation, nor do I have the awareness of anything other than me. Iti vyuthita janasya sarva abhava paramarsha anubhavacha. So when a person wakes up, how does he report his experience of deep sleep? That I did not know anything. I did not know myself. I don't know where I was. I didn't know where I was and what I was, and I did not know anything that happened. So, sarva abhava paramarsha anubhavat. There is an anubhava of an absence of everything in the deep sleep. Therefore, shunyam atma iti vadanti. They say that atma is shunyam because in deep sleep I do not know myself, nor do I know anything other than me, which means that there is nothing in deep sleep. Shunyam is atma. That there is no shruti. Asadeva idam agrasi. There is shruti there. Asadeva idam agrasi. All of this universe before its creation was asad, non-existent. Asad is interpreted as non-existent, and that is how they present this and similar statements in support of the contention that Atma is Shunyam. Anyetu ukta shruti yukti anubhavanam avasatvat sukhamah swapsam na kinchid avedisam iti vithitasya paramarsha anyatha anupatya. It is true that somebody, then when the person wakes up, what does he say? Sukhamah swapsam. I slept happily. Na kinchid avedisam. I did not know anything. So that is a smriti. That is actually a memory. And ya smritihi sa anubhav purvika. A memory always must be preceded by an experience. So in the morning when I wake up, I say that I slept happily. I say I did not know anything. That shows that I recollect my experience of not knowing anything and sleeping happily. Therefore, in the deep sleep, there must be the experience of absence of all knowledge, or knowledge of absence of everything, as well as the experience of happiness. Therefore, it shows that Atma is in fact of the nature of happiness. He is there in deep sleep, experiencing happiness and absence of everything. Sukham hamaswapsam na kinchidavedisham iti vyuthhitasya paramarsha anyatha anupapatya. This paramarsha, this kind of memory would not have been there had I not experienced this happiness in deep sleep. Shushuptavu ajnanadi sakshitvena paripurnatma pratya angikarat. We say that in Sushupti also I am there as a sakshi, the witness of the absence of everything. There is no reason for you to say that in Sushupti I am not there. It is true that in Sushupti of the deep sleep I do not experience anything. I do not experience anything not because I am not there to experience, because there is nothing to experience. See, I will not have experience of anything in two conditions. Either I am not there to experience or there is nothing there to experience. Shunyavadi says, you are not there to experience anything. We say that there is nothing to experience. In the darkness I don't see anything. So when I don't see anything, there can be two reasons. Because I am blind or because there is nothing to see. When you don't see anything, they say I am blind. Don't say you are blind. On account of darkness, you are not able to see. So at least you say that darkness is there. Even that itself shows the existence of eyes. In deep sleep, we do not know anything because there is no instrument of knowledge, namely mind, at that time. Therefore, you do not know anything. So you should not conclude that you are not there. Then who are you? I am the Sakshi. I am the witness of absence of everything. Sushupto ajnanadi sakshitvena, absence of every. I am Sakshi of the ignorance. I am Sakshi of happiness also. Ajnanadi sakshitvena. Atma is the Sakshi, the witness of ignorance, etc. Paripurna Atma Pratyaya Angikarat. Therefore, in deep sleep also, there is Paripurna Atma Pratyaya. So in the waking state, there is Paripurna Atma Pratyaya. There is a full awareness of myself you see about myself, there is a full awareness. Even if I don't have eyes or ears or hands or legs, still my awareness of I is complete. It is not that because I don't have hands or legs that I feel myself as you know, I mean about I have less than complete awareness. About I have a complete awareness about myself. In the dream also, even though the body and the sense organs are not there, I have a complete awareness of myself. In deep sleep, even the mind is not there, even then I have a complete awareness of myself. This is what we accept. So in the deep sleep also, that I is present in its full measure. So that fullness of I is in no way affected by the present absence of this body, sense organs, mind, etc. So Sakshitvena Paripurnatma Pratya Angikarat Aham Ullekhi Pratyabhijnanacha. And also there is Pratyabhijna, or there is this recollection that the one who went to sleep last night is the one who woke up in the morning. And therefore, there is a continuity of existence also. Na shunyasya atmatvam. And therefore, Atma is not shunya, cannot be Atma. Kintu vakshamana shrutehe mama pratyaya alambanasya aham ullekhamanasya shariradehe bhoktruttvadi anupapattirupa yuktehe karta bhokta ityadi anubhavacha dehadibhyah vyatiktah karta bhokta pratyabhijnanat sthirah atma iti vadanti. Now other fellows, they dismiss the shunyavadi by these yuktis. Now we are coming close to Vedanta, you see. Mama pratyaya alambanasya aham ullekhamanasya shriradehe bhoktruttvadi anupattihi. This body, which is taken by me as mine, therefore it is different from I. And that which is different from I must be inert. So body is what? Inert. Is not conscious. An inert thing cannot be experiencer. Experiencer always must be a conscious being. Since body is different from I, therefore it is not conscious being, and therefore it cannot be experiencer of pleasure and pain. So kartrutva or bhoktrutva, the doership and enjoyership cannot be in this body, or the sense organs, or the mind, or anywhere. All of these are different from I because all of them are appreciated as mine. So they are different from I. Therefore they are inert. Therefore the kartrutva, bhoktrutva cannot be in body, or sense organs, or the mind, or the intellect. So shariradehe bhoktruttvadi anupattirupa yuktehe. So body cannot be bhokta or karta. However, what is my experience? I am karta, I am bhokta. I am a doer, I am an experiencer. This is my experience. So to account for, now you cannot account for that experience if you take the body, etc. as Atma. Because they are jada, inert, and so kartrutva, bhoktrutva cannot be in the body. Therefore, karta, bhokta, ityadi, anubhavacha. Since I have the experience that I am karta, I am bhokta, dehadibhyah vyatiriktah karta, bhokta, pratyabhijnana. And also, dehadibhyah vyatiriktah. This Atma must be different from the dehadi. At the same time, the person who did something yesterday is the person who is doing today. Person who experienced something yesterday is the one who is experiencing today. In this manner, I have what we call pratyabhijna or recollection. Therefore, it is sthira Atma and not kshanika Atma. So Atma is, some people say that Atma is but kshanika. We say no, Atma is not transitory or momentary, but it is a constant entity, unchanging entity. Meaning, the one whose existence is continuously there. These fellows accept Atma as changing, karta, bhokta, but one whose existence is continuous. Sthira karta, so karta, bhokta, pratyabhijnanat, sthira Atma iti vadanti. So some people say Atma is karta, bhokta. The Naiyayikas and Mimamsakas say this. The Prabhakaras. So Naiyayikas and Prabhakaras say Atma is karta, bhokta. Then there are fellows who refute them. Aparetu kartrutvam hi kriyaveshah nahi sarvagatasya nirvayavasya atmanah parinam lakshana kriyanvayah sambhavati. Kartrutvam hi kriyaveshah. So kartrutva always is, karta always is kriya ashraya. Karta means the agent is always the ashraya or the locus of the activity. And as the activity changes, that agent also changes. When I am performing the activity of speaking, I am a speaker. When I am performing the activity of going, I am a goer. When I am performing the activity of eating, I am eater. When I am performing the activity of thinking, I am thinker. So that karta and bhokta also is an entity that constantly undergoes modification. Nahi sarvagadasya nirvayavasya atmanah. But Atma is sarvagata, all pervasive. Atma is nirvayava, is partless. Atma being partless or not a composite entity. When we say partless, Atma is not a composite entity, not made up of different parts. And therefore, there cannot be modification in Atma. Now, Karta and Bhokta is the one who is constantly subject to modification. Atma cannot possibly be subject to modification, and therefore, Parinama Lakshana Kriyanvaya na sambhavati. In Atma, this concurrence or this togetherness of Parinama and Nirvayavatvam cannot be, and therefore, Atma cannot be Karta or Bhokta. Atma is not Karta. That much they say. Bhokta they do not say. Atma is not Karta. Nacha buddhehe kartrutvam atmano bhavati iti vachyam tanmade tadatma adhyasa bhava. Somebody says that kartrutva belongs to buddhi and that is taken to be that of Atma. He says no, they don't accept adhyasa. Tasmat kartrutvam se ukta shruti yukti anubhavanam avasatvat cha atmanah na kartrutvam. So they say Atma is not Karta because Karta is a changing entity. Atma cannot be that. Kintu vakshamana shrutehe दृश्यावभासत्वमात्रात्मक भोक्तृत्वोपपत्तिरूपयुक्तेः भोक्ता इति अनुभवाच्च केवलं भोक्तैव आत्मा इति वदन्ति. Other fellow says दृश्यावभासत्वमात्रात्मक भोक्तृत्व. So you are the one who is constantly illumining all the drishya or all the drishya means all those which are the subject to objectification. According to them, Atma is the one who experiences all the objects. He illumines all the objects. And that is how he is a bhokta, not karta. Kartrutva involves activity. Kartrutva it always implies activity. Activity always involves change. And since change cannot be in Atma, Atma cannot be karta. But they say that bhoktrutva does not involve change. Because you can keep on watching something. That thing is changing and you are merely an experiencer without yourself undergoing any change. So they accept Atma as a bhokta or experiencer, not subject to change. So Karta is a changing entity, bhokta who merely just watches. Abhichakashiti, he simply watches. Tayoho anyah pippalam swadvatti. So anasnananyah abhichakashiti, other fellow just watches. So kevalam bhokta, that kind of bhoktrutvam of the Atma they accept. So kevalam bhokta eva Atma iti vadanti. Then anyetu vakshamana shrutehe sarvajñatvadi anupatti rupa yuktehe naham ishvarah kintu samsari iti anubhavaccha bhoktuhu jivasya na ishvaratvam kintu vakshamana shrutehe sarvajñatvadi upatti rupa yuktehe ishvarah asti iti anubhavaccha dehadi व्यतिरिक्तात् अहम प्रत्यय विशेषात् भोक्तुः जीवादन्यः सर्वस्य ईशिता निर्दिशयत्वोपाधिकः ईश्वरः इति वदन्ति. Other people say that Ishvara is different from Atma because Atma is experienced as what? I am not omniscient, I am not omnipotent, that everyone knows. Then who am I? I am a samsari. I am not Ishvara, I am a samsari. This is what everyone's experience is. And everyone knows that Ishvara is omniscient, omnipotent, asamsari, and therefore Ishvara is different from Atma. Bhoktuhu jivasya na ishvaratvam. Everybody has an experience. I am a samsari, I am not omniscient, omnipotent, therefore this bhokta jiva is not Ishvara. Kintu vakshamana shrutehe sarvajñatvadi upatti rupa yuktehe. Yes, sarvajñah sarvavit yasya isha mahima bhuvi or yasya jnanamayam tapah. In this Shruti, Ishvara is presented as omniscient, omnipotent, and therefore sarvajñatvadi upapatti rupa yuktehe Ishvara asti. Ishvara, Lord must be sarvajñah. I am not sarvajñah. Therefore, dehadi vyatiriktad aham pratyaya vishayat bhoktuhu jivad. Bhoktuhu is fifth case there. The jiva is the bhokta who is no doubt different from body, etc. But then, other than this, jiva sarvasya ishita nirtishayatva upadika ishvara asti vadanti. They say that Ishvara, he is nirdishaya to upadikaha. One who enjoys the upadhi means total upadhi, that Ishvara is different from Atma, who is bhokta according to them. So those people who take Atma as bhokta, all the Dvaitins take the Atma as bhokta. That's why they want to serve and they want to enjoy that. Why do they want bhakti from one birth to other birth? Because there is rasasvada involved there. So when Ishvara is different from me and I am serving the Lord, then I gain the rasasvada. And that is where people get stuck. They don't want to give up the rasa. They want to retain the rasa that comes as a result of serving or experiencing or seeing the Lord, and therefore they want to have it forever. They feel that if you accept the identity with Ishvara, then there is no enjoyer, in which case there is no rasasvada or experience of ananda, and we don't want that state. I don't want to be sugar, I want to enjoy sugar. They don't know that sugar doesn't need enjoyment because there is sugar already, But anyway, this problem is there. And so they say that Ishvara is different from Bhokta, Dvaitavadins. So, Jivat Anyaha, Bhoktu Jivat Anyaha, Sarvasya Ishita, Nirdishayatva Upadikaha Ishvara iti vadanti. They say that Ishvara is Nirdishaya Upadikaha, meaning possessing Maya as Upadhi and different from Jiva. This is what they, now very close. Then finally, Vedantanastu. So far Vedantins are watching. Now Vedantanastu. Purvokta Shruti Yukti Anubhavanam Avasatvat Vakshamana Bhades Shruti Yuktibhyam Aham Brahmasmiti Vidvat Anubhavatcha. Shruti very clearly says Tattvamasi. Yukti also is that my experience of Bhoktrutva or Jivatva is Adhyasika or Upasika. When I say that I am a Jiva or I am a Samsari, it is not a valid experience. If you were a Samsari, every moment you must experience yourself as Samsari. But do you? There are moments when I forget my Samsaritvam, thank God. Even the most miserable person also, there is a moment in the life of a most miserable person also when he laughs or when he is happy. As Swami used to give an illustration, this boy has very long and crooked teeth and therefore he shies away from laughing. He will cover his mouth, generally he will avoid laughing or he will cover his mouth immediately. But sometimes it happens that his friend just told a slapstick joke, what do you call it, and immediately he laughed. He forgot himself. He forgot his body, he forgot his teeth, and he laughed. Then after a second he realized he is laughing, immediately covered his mouth, alright. But when this boy also laughs, at that moment he is not aware that he has this crooked or ugly teeth. So if he really was that person who considers himself as ugly, in that case, every moment, that sense of ugliness must persist. Atma is that which persists always. Therefore, if Atma is samsari, that samsaritva must persist every moment. You cannot get rid of that. Just as a fire cannot get rid of its heat, sun cannot get rid of its light, and honey cannot get rid of its sweetness. One cannot get rid of one's dharma. If samsari were my dharma, then I would love to be a samsari also. I would not want to be a samsari or would not want to become free from samsaritvam. At the same time, I can never give up the awareness of samsaritvam. The yukti. You cannot be samsari. In the moment of happiness, all the duality gets resolved. Then there is one flame of happiness, And so, when the desirer and the desired object, when both of them become one, then both of them get lost in one flame of experience of happiness. In that moment, the duality is completely lost. And what you experience there is the non-duality. And therefore, non-duality also becomes an object of experience. In moments of ecstasy, when you completely forget yourself. In ordinary happiness, you will not forget yourself because the intensity is not that much. But there may be an experience of intense happiness at which moment you just forget. You come across something that is just astonishing, something that is wonderful, something very striking. At that moment, you forget everything. And that is the moment when you experience what we call a total absence of sense of individuality. There is an experience of what we call non-duality, not knowledge. But then that experience is the most coveted experience. Therefore you want it again and again. Why does that experience of ecstasy we want again and again? Because what we experience at that time is completeness. And therefore you want it again and again, not knowing that it is yourself. And you think that it has come from a given situation. Since that experience of ecstasy came on account of creation of certain conditions, therefore you always associate ecstasy with conditions and not with yourself. And therefore you want to recreate those conditions again and again. Well, that's called samsara, which arises from ignorance. But then, idea is that you do experience that Advaitam, Advitiya Atma, in moments. Of course, in deep sleep we do, but then deep sleep cannot be presented because there are all kinds of difference of opinions about deep sleep. Therefore, it cannot be presented as a valid argument because it's not acceptable to everybody. But a moment of happiness is something acceptable to everybody. And when we analyze that moment of happiness, it becomes evident. I did not know anything that time also. I forgot myself completely. And even if there is one moment when I forget myself, that shows that that state is there, which is totally different. That is, where there is a total absence of the sense of individuality. That one momentary experience is enough for Vedantin to prove. Even years of experience of duality can be dismissed by one moment of experience of non-duality. That requires strength, and so they can show that this is more valid, that one moment is more valid than 100 years of duality. Because that 100 years you have never accepted, that one moment you have accepted. You look forward to that one moment, not those 100 years. That shows that is what you love, and what you love must be yourself. And so, even when I think that I love somebody, I actually love myself. And that love for that one moment shows love for yourself alone. And therefore, it is that which is the true nature, and not all the misery. So here, majority does not determine truth. Even though they generally experience dukkham, 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 sukham. But that one moment of sukham really is more valid than the years of dukkham. These are Vedantins. Vedantinastu Purokta Shruti Yukti Anubhavanam Avasatvat Vakshmana Abhadita Shruti Yuktibhyam. And then Abhadita Shruti Tattvamasi Aham Brahma, it cannot be negated. Once you gain that knowledge, Aham Brahmasmiti Vidvat Anubhavacha. Because Vedanta is a pramanam for Atma and not your so-called practical experience. And this is verified by the Vidwan, meaning the wise people. Aham Brahmasmiti Vidvat Anubhavacha Pratyak Asthulaha Achakshuhu, it should be Apranaha Amanaha Akarta Chaitanyam Chinmatram Saha Sat Ityadi Prabala Shrutescha. All this Prabala Shruti is there. Aham Brahmasmi is Vidvat Anubhava Pratyak Asthulaha Asthulam Ananu, etc. Achakshuhu Apranaha Amanaha Akarta. Shruti says Atma is Achakshuhu Aprano Kshamana Shubhraha Yaksharat Paradah Paraha Pasyatya Chakshuhu Shrunotya Karanaha Achakshuhu Akaranaha Apranaha Amanaha. This is how Shruti in fact describes or reveals Atma. So Achakshuhu Asthulaha Pratyak means so Pratilomena Anjati, that which is totally contrary to all your experiences is Pratyak Satchidananda. Asthulaha Achakshuha Pranaha Amanaha Akarta Chaitanyam Chinmatroham Sadashiva Chinmatram Saha Itya Saha Sat Sat means Sadeva Swami Idamagrasit Ityadi Prabala Shrutescha Bhoktruttvadi Avabhasasya Mithyatvat. Even though you experience yourself as Sukhi Dukhi Karta Bhokta, it is only Mithya experience, not the true experience, because it is Avabhasa. It is Anubhav Avabhasa, not a true experience of Atma. Swataha Nitya Siddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava Swayam Prakashmano Jivaheti Jiva Brahmano Aikyam Vadanti. And the Vedantins say that Swataha Nitya Siddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. In fact, by yourself, you are Nitya, Siddha, Buddha, Mukta. You are pure. You are awareness. You are knowledge. You are ever free. You are a complete being. This is what the Vedantins Swayam Prakashmana. And you don't have to create that. You don't have to create the freedom. You don't have to create the purity. You don't have to create completeness because Swayam Prakashmana. It is self-evident. So, iti Jiva Brahmana. So, the Jiva who is taken to be samsari is in fact Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarupaha Swaprakashmanaha iti Jiva Brahmano Aikyam Vadanti. So Vedantins say that in fact Jiva Brahma Aikya, which is just momentary, only moments are there, where we experience that Aikya, that is a valid moment. Aikyam vadanti. Tasmat purushartha asti iti siddham. Therefore, there is purushartha. What is the purushartha? Jiva Brahma Aikyam, completeness. So attainment of completeness is purushartha. And when can it be? Only Brahma is complete. When can completeness be? Only when I know myself as Brahman. If that is a fact. And so there is purushartha. It is, I can be a complete being because I am a complete being, but I take myself to be incomplete, and therefore that purushartha asti iti vadanti iti siddham. Therefore there is purushartha in life. Iti siddham. Thus Purnanandiya kindly, Ratna Prabhupada did not do this. So Purnanandiya had filled up the gaps in between to tell us how the whole thinking process proceeds. Starting from body I am to Brahma I am, what are all the steps involved? So all of these are, so different pratipattis are there. This would not have been had it not been the fact that the Vishesha Swarup of the Atma is not known by us. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Shankaram Om Atha Om Atha Om Atha Vishwandarpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyan Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirivot Bhutai Yatha Nidraya Yasakshat Kurute Prabodh Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bijasyantarivāṅkura Prāṅ nirvikalpam punaha Maya kalpita desha kala kalana Vaichitra chitri kritam Maya viva vijrambhayatya vimaha Yogi vayasvechaya Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Yasyaiva Spuranam Sadatmakam Kalpartakam Hasate Sakshat Tattvamasiti Vedavachasa Yo Bodhayatyashritan Yat Sakshat Karanad Bhavenna Punara Vrittir Bhavam Bhavanidho Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Nana Chidra Ghatodara Sthitamaha Prabhavaswaram Jnanayasya tu Chakshuraadikarnadvara Vahispandate Janamiti tameva bhantamanubhatyetat samastam jagata Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Deham pranam apindriyanya vichalam Buddhim cha shunyam viduh Stri balanda jadopamaspamiti Bhranta vrasham vadinaha Maya shakti vilasa kalpita maha Vyamoha samharine Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Yushmadasmat Pratyaya Gocharayoho Vishaya Vishayinoho Tamah Prakashavad Viruddha Svabhavayoho इतरेतर भावानुपपत्तौ सिद्धायाम् तद्धर्माणामपि सुतराम् इतरेतर भावानुपपत्तिः इत्यतः अस्मत्प्रत्ययगोचरे विषयिणी चिदात्मके युष्मत्प्रत्ययगोचरस्य विषयस्य तद्धर्माणाञ्च अध्यासः तद्विपर्ययेण विषयिणः तद्धर्माणाञ्च विषये अध्यासः मिथ्येति भवितुं युक्तम् तथापि अन्योन्यस्मिन् अन्योन्यात्मकताम् अन्योन्यधर्मांश्च अध्यस्य इतरेतरा विवेकेन अत्यन्तविविक्तयोः धर्मधर्मिणोः मिथ्याज्ञाननिमित्तः सत्यानृते मिथुनीकृत्य अहमिदं ममेदमिति नैसर्गिकोऽयं लोकव्यवहारः वेदान्तमीमांसाशास्त्रस्य व्याचिख्यासितस्य इदमादिमं सूत्रम् धातो ब्रह्म जिज्ञासा 88 आत्मा च ब्रह्म यदि तर्हि लोके ब्रह्म आत्मत्वेन प्रसिद्धमस्ति ततो ज्ञातमेवेति अजिज्ञास्यत्वं पुनरापन्नम् न तद्विशेषं प्रतिपत्तेः देहमात्रं चैतन्यविशिष्टम् आत्मेति प्राकृता जनाः लौकायतिकाश्च प्रतिपन्नाः इन्द्रियाण्येव चेतनानि आत्मेत्यपरे मन इत्यन्ये विज्ञानमात्रं क्षणिकमित्येके शून्यमित्यपरे अस्ति देहादिव्यतिरिक्तः संसारी कर्ता भोक्तेत्यपरे भोक्तैव केवलम् न कर्तेत्येके अस्ति तद्व्यतिरिक्त ईश्वरः सर्वज्ञः सर्वशक्तिरिति केचित् आत्मा सः भोक्तुः इत्यपरे एवं बहवः विप्रतिपन्नाः युक्ति वाक्य तदाभास समाश्रयाः सन्तः एवं बहवः विप्रतिपन्नाः. In this manner there are many people vipratipannaha, those who entertain contradictory opinions. Yuktivakya tadabhasa samashrayah santah. Samashrayah santah, taking based on the basis of yukti abhasa, vakya abhasa. They present yukti or reasoning all right in support of their opinion, but that is only yukti abhasa, not real yukti or vakya abhasa. They also quote the vakya statements from the Upanishad, from the Shruti, but that also is vakya abhasa, and that means those vakyas do not have tatparya in themselves, they have tatparya elsewhere. No doubt there is a Vakya. Savaesha Purusho Narasamaya. That this Purusha or Atma is Narasamaya, is body. But this Vakya does not have tatparya in itself. It has tatparya in some other Vakya. Brahma Pucham Pratishtha. So all the Vakyas that are there, ultimately all of them lead to this, that Brahma is the Pratishtha. Brahma is the truth of everything. It is a Pratishtha. It's a basis of everything. And that is the Vakya into which all of these other Vakyas have Tatparyam. And so if you take any particular statement and then look at it independently, then it may convey certain meaning, but when you analyze it in context, in the whole context, then it may have a different meaning to convey. So that's why it's called Vakya Abhasa, meaning that Vakya does not have Tatparya in itself, you don't have to take the Vachyars of that Vakya, maybe you have to take Lakshyartha. It may be Arthavada, it may be different things, and you have to analyze it in the total context. But people taking refuge of or taking support of such yuktis and Vakya Abhasas, they arrive at contradictory opinions and they contradict one another. Parasparam virudhyante, tairayam na virudhyate. As Gaudapadacharya says, all of these fellows, these Dvaitins, they contradict one another. But Vedantin doesn't contradict anybody because Vedantin sees where they are talking. From what standpoint or what fault in thinking has led to a particular person to arrive at a given opinion or a conclusion is what a Vedantin can see if he doesn't hang on to any given thing. So tairayam na virudhyate. Now we discussed this yesterday. Now going back to page 88. All these Vipratipattis or contradictory views are presented here to show that there is Samanya Jnanam of Brahma and that there is a lack of Vishesha Jnanam. Only in a condition like that, that is what we call Vipratipatti or these contradictory opinions. As in case of a rope, when there is a general knowledge that there is an object, but in absence of the particular knowledge that this is a rope, in that case alone there are these Vipratipattis. Namely, this is a snake, or this is a garland, and so forth and so on. This kind of contradictory opinions can arise only when this peculiar condition is satisfied, and such condition exists pertaining to Brahma. That Brahma is known as a self. That I am Ahamasmi Sadabhami. So Brahma as Satchit Atma is known. Or what is known as Atma is indeed Brahma alone, except that it is not known as Paripurna. Atma is Paripurna, Brahman is Purnam, and that is Atma. That Vishesha is not known, and therefore it is taken to be Apurna, is taken to be Anitya, Ashuddha, Samsari, and whatever. On page 88, Ratnaprabha says in the very last line, Tatra Sthula Sukshma Kramena Vipratipattihi Upanyasyati Dehamatra Mityadina. Sthula Sukshma Kramena. There is a sequence here from Sthula to Sukshma, from the very gross opinion to the very fine opinions. So as the thinking proceeds, then people arrive at finer and finer opinions about them, but still they remain opinions and not truth. So, sthula sukshma kramena vipratipattihi upanyasyati. Vipratipatti is what? Viruddha pratipattihi vipratipattihi. So vipratipattihi upanyasyati says atra viruddhartha pratipadakam vakyam vipratipatti shabdartha. In fact, Bhashyakara quotes the very opinions or conclusions of those people, viruddhartha pratipadakam vakyam. What Bhashyakara quotes are the different vakyas, the statements, or which show the conclusion of all those different people. And that is what is meant by vipratipatti, meaning viruddha pratipatti or contradictory opinions. Then Ratnaprabha said, Shastrajnana Shunyaha Prakrutaha, that we saw yesterday. Then says, Ved Bhashya Matani Uktva Tarkikadi Matamaha. So, understand there is a krama here. When Bhashyakara first gave the opinion of the Prakrutaha Janaha or Laukayadikaha, that is Veda Bhashyaha. They don't accept Vedas. Or Indriyani, Manaha, Vijnana Matram, Shunyam. All of these people are what we call Nastikas. And in Vedantic term or Vedic term, Nastikam is the one who does not accept Veda as Pramanam. Generally we say Nastika is the one who does not believe in God. But in this here, Nastika means one who does not accept the Pramanyam of the Vedas is called Nastika. So these Charvakas and the Bauddhas and Jainas, none of them accept the Pramanyam of the Vedas, and so they fall in the category of Nastikas. Even among those who accept the Pramanyam of the Vedas, there are those who don't accept God. And they are called further Nastika, and so that is what atheism. So there is a theism, atheism, this way. So people may not believe in Vedas, but they may believe in God. People may believe in Vedas, but they may not believe in God. People may not believe in Vedas and may not believe in God. People believe in Vedas and believe in God. So Vedantins fall in this category that they accept Vedas as well as they believe in God. So theist they are, And these Charvakas, they don't accept Vedas, nor do they accept God. Charvakas, Bauddhas, Jainas, all of them, they don't accept Vedas, nor do they accept God. So atheism, that's how the category are. So Vedabhahya matani uktva tarkikadi matamaha astidi. So Shunyamiti apare, all of these matas are Vedabhahya. Asti dehadi vyatiriktaha samsari karta bhokta iti apare. Now, how do these opinions arise? That Ratnaprabha briefly explains. Kimatma dehadi rupaha uta tad bhinna iti vipratipatti kotitvena. Kimatma dehadi rupaha is Atma of the nature of Deha. Dehadi includes everything up to the Buddhi. So the different opinions are there, different questions arise. Is this body the Atma, or the sense organs are Atma, or the prana is Atma, or the mind is Atma, or the intellect is Atma? Iti vipratipatti kotitvena dehendriya mano buddhi shunyani uktva. Some people take Deha as the Atma, some people take Indriyani as Atma, some people take Manaha as Atma, others take Buddhi as Atma, and yet others take Shunyam as Atma, iti uktva. Tad bhinnopi. And those people who are now other than this, meaning those who are outside these opinions, they don't take the Deha, Indriya, Manaha, Buddhi or Shunyam as Atma. Even there also, tad bhinnopi. They say that Atma is different from Deha, Indriyani, Manaha, Buddhi, Shunyam, alright. Kartrutvadiman, Nava, iti vipratipatti kotitvena. Then is Atma Kartrutvadiman, meaning Kartrutvadi is what? Kartrutva Bhoktruttvadiman. Alright, is Atma Karta or Bhokta? Then those people, Nayayikas and Mimamsakas, say that Atma is Karta and Bhokta. He is different from body, alright, but he is the agent of action as well as enjoyer or experiencer of all the different experiences. Bhokta is not enjoyer, but Bhokta is experiencer. Sukha dukha sakshatkara bhoga. That word, that bhoga, Generally, bhoga means enjoyment. This is what we understand. But bhoga should better be understood as experience. Because sukha dukkha sakshatkara bhoga hai. A direct experience of happiness or unhappiness, pleasure or pain is called bhoga. So bhokta means the experiencer of pleasure and pain. They say Atma is such. Kartruttvadiman navayati vipratipatti koditvena. Since this is our common experience that I am karta, I am bhokta, this is our experience. And therefore, this Mimamsakas and Naiyayikas accept Atma as karta bhokta. Tarkika sankha pakshau upanyasya. Asti deha, then, so asti dehadi vidiriktaha samsari karta bhokta iti apare, they are tarkika. Bhokta eva kevalam na karta iti eke sankhya. Sankhya, that we discussed yesterday, that kartrutva involves change or modification. And they accept Atma as niravayava. They accept Atma as also as sarvagadaha. Sankhya say that Atma is all pervasive, it is partless, it is pure, it is of the nature of awareness, and there cannot be modification in Atma. Therefore, Atma cannot be karta. So Atma should be bhokta. And kartrutva is there in Prakriti, and Atma is bhokta. Karya karana kartrutve hetu prakriti ruchyate. Purushaha sukha dukkhanam bhoktrutve hetu ruchyate. So karya karana kartrutve. In the kartrutva or the doing of karya karana, this whole universe consisting of karya karana kartrutve. Hetu prakriti uchyate. In the creation of this whole universe consisting of karya and karana, or the creation of this upadhi consisting of karya and karana, hetu prakriti uchyate. This prakriti is supposed to be the hetu or the cause of this creation. Purusha sukha dukkhanam bhoktrutve hetu uchyate. While Purusha or the Atma is supposed to be hetu or the cause of sukha dukkhanam bhoktrutve, experience of the pleasure and pain. This is how the Sankhyas believe. Of course, in Bhagavad Gita it means somewhat differently, but then this is so bhokta eva kevalam na karta iti eke. So then, Tarkika Sankha Paksha Upanyasya Akartavi Ishvarat Bhinnonava. Then they said that Atma cannot be Karta. Then Atma is Akarta. Alright, if Atma is Akarta, Abhokta also, because Bhoktrutvam also involves modification, then Atma is Akarta. Even then, even we accept Atma is Akarta, meaning free from any sense of agency, not the doer or performer of any action, then also Ishvarat Bhinnonava. Such an Atma, is it different from Ishvara or not? That's next question. Is Atma the body, sense organs, the prana, the mind, etc.? Out of these questions, they arrive at the conclusion that Atma is Karta, Bhokta, and somebody said, no, Atma cannot be Karta, he is Bhokta. Somebody says he cannot be Karta or Bhokta, he is Akarta. Atma is Akarta, is the non-doer, meaning free from, he is not the agent of action, free from, he is actionless. Even actionless Atma, is he identical to Ishvara or not? There also there are differences. Akarta vi Ishvarat bhinnaha navayati vivada kotitvena yogi matamaha asti tad vyatirikta Ishvara iti. So asti tad vyatirikta means jiva vyatirikta asti. Then the yogis, they accept Atma as Akarta, alright. But they say that Ishvara is different from Atma. So according to them, Sankhyas don't accept Ishvara, by the way. They only accept the Purusha and Prakriti. But the yogis accept Ishvara as a Purusha Vishesha, who is Sarvajna, Sarvashaktiman. So such Purusha Vishesha, they accept a special conscious being who has the ability to create. So they accept Purusha as the creator. And he is different from. So this also is Purusha, Atma also is Purusha, Ishvara also is Purusha. And what is the Vishesha that they can't really explain? But then, since there was a need to worship, Sankhyas don't see the need to worship. According to them, the analytical approach is enough to eliminate the aviveka. But the yogis found that it is not adequate. That you have to worship to obtain the grace of God. So Ishvara Pranidhanam is what they added. And so worship of Ishvara. Now you must define who Ishvara is. So they say Ishvara is this Purusha Vishesha. One who is free from all the kleshas. One who is free from all the karma, raga, dvesha, karma, vipaka. One who is free from all the effects of raga, dvesha, karma. Such pure conscious being is Ishvara. But he is different from Atma. Atma also is pure conscious being. Ishvara also is pure conscious being. Still they consider Ishvara as different from Atma. And so, Asti tad vyatiriktaha. Tad vyatirikta means what? Jiva vyatiriktaha. That is, Ishvara who is different from Jiva. Ishvara sarvagnya sarvashakti iti kechit means yogina. They say that Ishvara is omniscient, omnipotent, but different from Jiva, different from Atma. Then, continuing further, Niratishaya sattvam gruhitva Ishvara sarvajñatvad sampanna iti yogino vadanti. This is what the Niratishaya sattvam means what? Niratishaya sattvopadikaha jivatiriktaha Ishvara iti vadanti. Niratishaya sattvam gruhitva. Sattva is sattva rajas tamas, that's the guna. So Ishvara is mayopahita chaitanyam. Ishvara is the one who has maya, which is Vishuddha Sattva Pradhanam, so Prakriti. That maya, Pradhana Prakriti, maya is the upadhi of Ishvara. And this is what because then alone Ishvara can be omniscient, omnipotent. For one to be all-knowing, one must have the total faculty of knowledge. For the one to be all-powerful, one should have the total faculty of power. So where is the total faculty of knowledge? In the Sattva Guna. Where there is Sattva Guna, Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam. Knowledge is there only when the mind is Sattvic. So Ishvara is endowed with the upadhi of Sattva, totality of all the Sattva, and totality of all the power, in order for him to be Sarvashaktiman. So Niratishaya Sattvam Gruhitva Ishvara Sarvajñatvad Sampanna. Ishvara endowed with what we call the upadhi of Maya becomes the Sarvajña Sarvashaktiman iti yoginaha vadanti. Niratishaya Sattvam Gruhitva means Niratishaya Sattvopadikaha Jivatirikta Ishvara iti vadanti. Ishvara is different from Jiva, but then endowed with this upadhi, Sattvic upadhi or Vishuddha Sattva Pradhan upadhi. Says Purnanandya. Niratishaya Sattvarupo Gunaha Yogimate Paramadik Satyah Siddhantetu Maya Rupatvena Satyahidi Matayoho. This sounds very similar to Vedanta. Vedantins also say that Mayopahitam Chaitanyam Ishvaraha. And yogis also say. So what's the difference in the yoga, this opinion of the yogis and opinion of the Vedantins with reference to Ishvara? He says according to them that Niratishaya Sattva Upadhi. So upadhi of total sattva is real. Siddhantetu maya rupatvena satya. According to us, that Niratishaya sattva also is maya. And therefore, it is asatyam. Whereas according to yogis, the world also is real, and all the gunas are also real, and Ishvara also is real in that sense. Ishvara's upadhi also is real. Ishvara is real for us also, but his upadhi is not real. According to them, the upadhi also is real. That's the difference there. Bheda Koti Muktva Siddhanta Koti Maha. Alright, what's Siddhanta? Atma Saha Bhoktuhu iti apare. Bhoktuhu means Jivasya Akartuhu Sakshinaha Saha Ishvara Atma Surupamite Vedantino Vadanti Ityartha. Apare doesn't even say who says that. Because it's not important here. This presentation here, Upanyasa, is not so much for arriving at the Siddhanta as arriving at Vipratipattis and arriving at this particular peculiar situation that there is an absence of Vishesha Jnanam pertaining to Brahma and there is knowledge of Samanya Jnanam. That is the purpose of the discussion. So there is no distraction here. Otherwise, Siddhanti says this, etc. Then what happens? Your mind gets distracted. Here the idea is to show you that there is presence of the Samanya Jnanam and absence of Vishesha Jnanam. Therefore, these different kotis, including that of Vedantin, also is presented. So, Saha Atma Bhoktuhu. Bhoktu means Jivasya Akartuhu Sakshinaha Saha Ishvara Atma. So, Ishvara is Atma, the self of this Bhokta, who is the, of the Jiva, who is actually Akarta, Abhokta, Sakshi. Ishvara is the very nature or very Swarupam, the very truth of the Sakshi, meaning Sakshi himself. So Vedantin say that the Jiva, who in reality is Akarta, Abhokta, Sakshima, Sakshi Chaitanyam, he is indeed Ishvara, meaning Brahma. Saha Ishvara is Yogi Mata Prasiddha Ishvara. That Ishvara who is known to the yogis as Sarvashakti or Sarvajna is in fact the Atma according to the Vedantins. Says Purnanandiya, Sopadikataya Jivasya Bhoktritvam Kartrutvam Cha Vartate. They always ask you the question, if you say that Atma is Akarta Abhokta, meaning he is actionless, he is not an experiencer, then how do you explain our experience of Kartrutva Bhoktrutva? We constantly experience the self as doing something and experiencing something. And so our experience is Atma is Karta and Bhokta. How do you explain that experience? Just Sopadikataya Jivasya Bhoktrutvam Kartrutvam Cha Vartate. On account of identification with the Upadhi, namely Buddhi, there is this Bhoktrutva and Kartrutva on the part of Jiva. Svatastu Abhoktrutvam Akartrutvam Sakshitvam Cha Swataha. However, without any reference to Upadhi. So all the time we know the Atma from a standpoint. I know myself as a happy person from the standpoint of a happy mind. I know myself as an unhappy person from the standpoint of an unhappy mind. I know myself as father from the standpoint of son. So no doubt Atma is known as such, as the one who is subject to modification, Sopadikataya. When Atma is looked upon from the standpoint of Upadhi, namely body or mind or intellect. So that being father, that's happy, unhappy, father, son, all of these are where? They are all in the buddhi, they are all in the upadhi. Svatastu, however, who am I? Without any reference at all. Without the standpoint of the son, or the father, or the body, or the mind, or the intellect, where there is no standpoint at all, when I don't wear any costume at all. When I wear different costumes, certainly I have different roles. But when there is no costume at all, then what is mine? Svatastu abhoktrutvam akartrutvam sakshitvam jivasya. Swataha, without any standpoint. So, as he is, jiva is what? Akarta, abhokta, sakshi, merely witness. That witness also is mere consciousness. Witnessing also should not be considered as an action. Otherwise that also becomes a role. Atma doesn't have any role at all. Even witnessing also is in the sense of just shining. And the Atma just shines in itself and illumines everything else. That is called the witnessing, sakshitvam, tathacha. And then Brahma also is just shines and illumines everything. Tatha jivatariktaha na ishvaraha. And then there is no conscious entity other than this. So tatha cha jivatariktaha na ishvaraha. There is no Ishvara apart from jiva. So when we say that jiva brahma aikyam, it is not that karta abhokta, jiva is Ishvara. It is akarta, abhokta, sakshi. He is Atma and that is Ishvara. Iti jiva brahmano aikyam vedantino vadanti iti bhavaha. So Vedantins talk of or Vedantins present this identity between jiva and Brahma in this manner. Vipratipatti upasamharti evam bahavaha. So Bhashaka evam bahavaha vipratipannaha yuktivakya tad avasa samashraya santaha. So says Ratnaprabha विप्रतिपत्तीनां प्रपंचः निरासश्च विवरण उपन्यासे दर्शितः. Which prapancha and nirasa we saw yesterday. Since Ratna Prabhakara does not give, therefore Purnanandiya gave here the prapancha nirasascha. Prapancha means presenting that particular opinion and nirasa refuting that opinion. Ratna Prabhakara doesn't give because vivarana upanyase darshitaha. There is vivarana upanyasa. So there is this Brahma Sutra. On that there is Shankara Bhashya. On that there is a tika of Padmapadacharya called Panchapadika. On that there is yet other commentary which is called Vivaranam, Panchapadika Vivaranam. And this whole Vivaranam has been presented in a brief form. So that is called Vivarana Upanyasa. All the Siddhantas that are contained in the Vivaranam are systematically presented in Vivarana Upanyasa. There, this is all discussed. How the different opinions arise and where the fault in their thinking is. He says, Darshitaha. Since it is shown in that text, Sukhabodhaya. So, actually it is not necessary for you to know. It is only enough to know that such opinions are. Why those opinions are, etc. is not the point here. In course of Brahma Sutra, all of these will be taken threadbare, when the occasion will arise. But when the occasion is not there is no need to discuss. Or we discussed it all right. However, there is no need for Bhashyakara to discuss these things here because the purpose of presenting all the different opinions is to show that different opinions exist pertaining to Atma. And that can only happen when there is some ignorance and some knowledge. That was the purpose here. As the time will come, in Brahma Sutra, each one of these opinions will be taken up for discussion. So that prapancha in nirasa will be done. However, in this Vivarana Upanyasa, at this point, the prapancha and the nirasa is done. Sukhabodhayati iha uparamyate. There it is shown for a clear understanding. Iha uparamyate. Here, we do not dwell upon that. Here just we conclude by saying that all this upanyasa is there. It's not even required here also. Then this Vakya, the Tikagara Yukti Vakya, Tad Avasa Samashrayaha Santaha. You have to go to page 91 on Purnanandiya. Yukti Vakya Tad Avasa Samashrayaha Iti Vashyam Vibhaga Purvakam Swamata Paramatanusaranam Yojayati Tatra Yukti Iti. Now, what is our opinion and what is the opinion of the Vadis? That is being presented here by Ratna Prabhakara Tatra Yukti Vakya Shrayaha Siddhantinaha. Those fellows are what? Yukti Vakya Tad Abhasa Samashrayaha. This is Vadinaha. And Vedantinaha Yukti Vakya Ashrayaha, not Abhasa. And so those fellows are all misled. They don't know what is the Tatparya. Since Tatparya, that's why Shravanam is Tatparya Nirnaya. Those fellows have spent such a long time in contemplating or deliberating upon Atma, but then arrived at all these wrong opinion, ultimately conclusions. Like that man who deliberated for 1 month, This fellow in the village, every morning was sitting on his, just in the porch of the house and doing his brush, Takes 45 minutes, the datan. So 45 minutes, you sit there and then keep chit-chatting, etc. And every morning, one cow used to pass by. Very beautiful cow with beautiful horns, the round horns meeting. So this fellow saw the cow and somehow an idea occurred in him. So what is the size, of these horns? How to measure them? So he could not arrive at a conclusion, He thought for a long time, many days, every morning he would think, how to measure this. After a month, then he had a bright idea. He said, let me see whether I can pass through them or not, And so, at the end of the month, when the cow came next morning, then he threw away his brush and then quietly went to the cow, caught hold of the horns and jumped and inserted himself to see whether he could pass through that or not, Meaning that those horns, what is the space between them? Is it big enough for him to pass through? Then he will know what is the distance there. And then he inserted himself halfway and got stuck where the belly came, And with all this activity, Cow was really, in the beginning, did not know what's happening and got really frightened, and then started running. So cow thought there is some danger here, started running. This fellow is stuck in the middle, He could not come out this way or that way. So he had a free ride of the whole village. Ultimately, few people had to catch hold of him and pull him out. But what I am saying is, just because we think for a long time does not mean that we think correctly. That's the only idea, That people think for a long, deliberate on a given thing for a great length of time and arrive at wonderful conclusions like this, And so, yukti vakya tadavasa samashraya santah. How Vedantis are what? Yukti vakya samashraya siddhantina. Jivo brahmaiva atmatvad brahmavad ityadi yukte. There is no yukti, but anyway, some kind of yukti is presented here. Jiva brahmaiva. Jiva is indeed Brahma. Atmatvad. Because Brahma is Atma. Brahmavat. So just as Brahma is Brahma, so also Jiva is Brahma because Brahma is the Atma of Jiva. This is wonderful yukti, Nityadi yukte. Tattvamasi. There is no yukti actually. Jiva Vedanta is only accept Shruti as a pramanam. And then there are yuktis. What is the nature of yukti? That Jivatvam cannot be real. We cannot say that Jiva is Brahma, but we can say that my conclusion about myself, namely I am Sukhi, I am Dukhi, I am father, I am whatever, that cannot be right. Because had I been Sukhi, I could not be Dukhi. Had I been Dukhi, I could not be Sukhi. Had I been father, I could not be son. The fact that I keep on switching roles, that shows that I am none of them. And therefore, this Jiva I cannot be. Then who am I? Then I must refer to Shruti. Says, you are Brahma. Yes, Brahma I can be without the reference of the Upadhi. That I am Brahma is not a product of logic. It is only something that is revealed by the Shruti. However, it is logical because Jivatvam is not logical. And Ishvara being separate from me, the distance between Jiva and Ishvara also is not logical because of Ishvara is limitless. Limitless cannot exclude anything. Purna is that which cannot exclude anything. If Ishvara is limitless, Ishvara cannot exclude me. Otherwise, if I am not Ishvara and you are also not Ishvara, and if all these fellows are excluded from the scope of Ishvara, then Ishvara is that much less. In which case, Ishvara does not possess the little power that I possess. And so Ishvara will be what? He will be mighty, but not almighty. Like even the President of the United States. He is mighty, alright, but not almighty. Because even the President of the United States does not have the power that a mosquito has. And if the President of the United States comes from Ahmedabad, he will definitely catch malaria. Why? Because that power that a mosquito has, even the President doesn't have. Even those viruses have their own strength because even the President can catch cold and can, all kinds of fever, etc. So that shows that one is mighty, alright, not almighty. And if Ishvara is excluded, Ishvara is not all of this, in which case, even President of the United States will have to use a mosquito net in Ahmedabad, Why? So that's why somebody, was sleeping outside with mosquito net intact. He says, wow, how come? He says, the mosquitoes know where to go, so they are all inside that net, and I'm outside, And all kind of jokes prevail about mosquitoes. Mosquito, the little creature, has this, has the power to bind this chap. So you enclose yourself in a mosquito net and the mosquito is out there free in the open and and things like that. The idea is that how a person lacks the strength, and so one can be at the most mighty, like my uncle, but then cannot be almighty. This is what will happen if Ishvara excludes something. Ishvara, in order to be Ishvara means a ruler, independent. For someone to be independent, he must rule everything. He must be above everything. In which case, nothing can be outside his reach, meaning nothing can be outside of his scope, nothing can be separate from him. He must include me, he must include everything. And if Ishvara should include me, then what should be the relationship? Am I a part and is he whole? Then there is avayava. In that case, there is modification, etc. And therefore, that will ultimately only culminate into total identity. But this logic is what we call supporting logic, which we supply in order to understand what the Shruti says, rather than arriving at by logic, arriving at what Shruti says by logic. No. But anyway, this kind of argument, the yuktis are given because Naiyayikas give all kinds of yuktis, and so Vedantins give yuktis to Naiyayikas to show that this is also logical, etc. Not logical, but then there is logic also. In fact, this Jiva Brahma Aikya is not something that is a product of logic. It is logical, alright, but then you cannot arrive at it by logic. Because logic always has the scope within the sense perception. And when thing is beyond sense perception, how can you say it is logic? But whatever we perceive is all falls in place. When you accept Jiva Brahma Aikya, then whatever we perceive and whatever we experience falls in place. Everything can be explained. Everything can be explained with Jiva Brahma Aikyam. That's why it is ultimate field, That so-called unified field that they are talking about has to be only Brahma. Because that this Jiva Brahma Aikyam alone can explain every experience in life. Including not only physical experiences, all psychological and whatever level of experiences are there, all of them can be explained by only one thing, Jiva Brahma Aikyam. A scientific principle can perhaps explain the physical phenomena. That's the scope. Regardless of whether it's theory of relativity or what it is. Still, all the mental modes are not within their scope. So, in that consideration, the mind and the consciousness do not enter at all. So, science can never be a complete thing anyway. This is complete in as much as it has within its scope everything. How to explain the world? Mithya. That's one word to explain the whole world, including mind and everything. So, that is explained. Means it is not real. But the idea is, this is one. Jiva Brahma Aikyam. So, Brahma is a Vishaya. Understand, the Vishaya of Vedanta is the same as Vishaya of science. Or the other way around, Vishaya of science is the same as that of Vedanta. I said the first way because it just shows that Vedanta is all inclusive. What a scientist is searching for is what is already here. But Jiva Brahma Aikya is that which explains every experience. However, it is not an experience. The identity of Jiva and Brahma is not an experience. Had it been an experience, there would be logic. It is not an experience. It explains every experience. You can't experience oneness. You can't experience oneness between you and I. Because then the experiencer cannot be. As long as experiencer is there, who is experiencing something, then there is duality in there where you cannot experience that oneness. People are trying to do that. In their meditation, they try to experience oneness, And that very attempt to experience oneness will deny that oneness. The very seeker denies the sought. Seeking denies the sought. Any attempt to search for the 10th man is a denial of the 10th man. And then where it is a nischaya, I said, Jnana means experience is already there. This Vedanta is for the nischaya. That every experience leads to only one thing, namely Jiva Brahma Aikyam. And so that Jiva Brahma Aikya is not something that you can experience and therefore it is not something for which there can be logic. However, whatever we experience, all can be explained in light of the Jiva Brahma Aikyam. And so everything falls in place. When everything can fall in place, then alone you can call it truth. Then Swami, can you explain every incident in life? If everything falls in place, if Vedanta can explain the life, can you tell me why this person fell ill and why did he suffer even though he has not done anything, Kuch paap nahi kiya hai, this is all mithya. The Vedanta can explain everything as mithya and therefore no further necessity is there to explain the details. Mithya is mithya. And therefore, papa also is mithya, punya also is mithya, and suffering also is mithya. Because if he is a sufferer, then he must suffer 24 hours a day. He does not. In deep sleep, he does not suffer. Any moment of happiness, he does not suffer. So this is vyabhichara. Moment vyabhichara is there, it is not truth. So anyway, the idea is, then when we become too emotional, then of course, then there are different problems. There are emotional problems, and therefore we don't bring in Vedanta. Meaning, we don't bring in this kind of thing when there is an emotional problem. Then we bring in the emotional aspects. That is Ishvara. So, when a person has difficulty in life and suffering in that sense, because giving such an amount of reality to the thing, then the only way it can be handled is to bring in Ishvara. Because the world is real, because suffering is real, you must gain there is a real change necessary. And real change can come, since it cannot come by my strength, it can only come by the grace of the one who has the strength, and that is Ishvara, and this is how it goes. So in Vyavahara, all of this is fine, but then from the Paramarthika standpoint, where is suffering? Who is suffering? You ask this question, and then, but only when the person is ready to hear this question. When a person is weeping and crying and really suffering, so who is suffering? Then he will suffer more. You see? So far I thought that there was a reason for my suffering, and now I understand there is no reason and still I am suffering, and therefore it will make him more sad, And so, then you have to handle it differently. Suffering is there. I know there seems to be something inscrutable, but we have to acquire the grace of God. There are obstacles, and the obstacles must be eliminated. So Vigneshwara is there, and so on and so forth. And all of this is right. All of this is right in Vyavahara. However, so Jivo Brahmaiva Atmatva, this logic here requires, this particular thing will require a lot of background of Nyaya, Brahmavat and things like that, So like Brahma is Brahma, so Atma is Brahma, because Jiva is Brahma alone. Ityadi yuktehe tattvamasi ityadi shrutescha abaditayaha sattvad. Tattvamasi, that thou art. That is a Shruti that cannot be negated or falsified by any experience or by any logic. Abaditayaha sattva, abaditayaha shrutehe sattvad. That there is Shruti that suggests tattvamasi and others which cannot be negated or falsified or improved upon. So Vedantins take the support of this Shruti. Otherwise Veda or the Shruti herself negates many of its own statements later on. But this is one statement which is not negated by that. And this and similar statements revealing the identity between Jiva and Brahma are not negated or contradicted by Shruti. Otherwise, many statements are contradicted by Shruti. Because you make a statement at a particular stage in the thinking of a person, and then slowly as a person grows in the thinking, then you may have to show something else or something better, in which case the previous thinking has to be falsified or improved upon by the new thinking. But ultimately, what is the culmination of it? Tattvamasi. There is no improvement. But Swamiji, suppose someone comes and says, that someone finds a better truth. Someone improves upon what you say, Swamiji. I say you are limitless. Improve upon it. You are limitless. Can you improve upon that? Limitless is that which cannot be improved upon. How do you define limitless? This how we will define. Limitless is that which cannot be improved upon. That is called limitless. And so when it is said you are limitless, you cannot improve upon this. And so, this is the Tattvamasi is that which cannot be contradicted, cannot be improved upon, cannot be negated, cannot be corrected, cannot be modified. It is something that is in every experience of pleasure and pain, Tattvamasi remains. Even when a fellow is suffering, he is still Brahma. If he is not Brahma when he is suffering, then Tattvamasi is not abhaditam. If Atma is there only when I am happy, and Atma is not there when I am unhappy, or I am Brahma only in a given situation in Samadhi and I am not Brahman when I am doing Vyavahara, in that case, Brahman is what? It gets negated when there is Vyavahara. It's not so. What is unnegated is what? Something that persists at every time, every place, and every situation. That's called abhaditattvam. Nirdosha yuktim abhadya shruti-vakyam cha samashrayaha ityartha. Therefore, Vedantins take the support of Nirdosha yukti. Nirdosha means which is devoid of any dosha. Nirdosha yukti and abhadita shruti. The shruti-vakya which cannot be, is not negated, not negatable. So, taking refuge of those, that's why Vedantins are the last word in everything. In everything, And so it depends on where they address themselves to. But here, Sattadava, then, so Yukti Vakya, that part is explained. Tadavasa. So Yukti Vakya is Swamata, and Tadavasa is Paramata. So Yukti Vakya Tadavasa Samashrayaha Santaha. Yukti Vakya Samashrayaha Vedantinaha, युक्तिवाक्य तदाभास समाश्रयः वादिनः. So tadabhas iti bhashyamsham vyachashte anyetu ityadina. And then Ratnaprabha says anyetu dehadihi atma aham pratyay gocharatvat vyatirekene ghatadivadati yukti abhasam. Other fellows say also they have yukti in supporting their opinions. What is it? Dehadihi atma aham pratyay gocharatvat. Somebody says deha is atma. Why? Aham pratyay gocharatvat. This is yukti. Because I find this deha as I find myself claiming to be manushya, then brahmana, sukhi, dukhi, badiraha, kanaha. Since there is aham pratyaya in deha, indriyani, pranashanayavanaham, pipasavanaham. Thus in the deha, indriyani, pranaha, manaha, buddhi, there is aham pratyaya. Aham pratyaya means that sense of I. Therefore we say that it is Atma, because Atma is Aham. So Aham Pratyaya Gocharatvat Vyatarekene Ghatadivat. I don't take a part as the self. Why? Because there is no Aham Pratyaya there. I don't take the microphone as self because I do not have Aham Pratyaya, the sense of I-ness in there. Well, the body is Atma because there is sense of I-ness in the body. Says yatra atmatva bhava tatra aham pratyay gocharatva bhava. There is no anvaya drishtanta, vyatireki drishtanta. Yatra atmatva bhava tatra aham pratyay gocharatva bhava. Wherever atmatva is not there, meaning wherever the selfhood is not, there aham pratyaya or the sense of I-ness is not. Where there is no self, there the I-ness is not there. And where there is self, I-ness is there. Since in the body there is a sense of I, therefore it is Atma. In microphone there is no sense of I, therefore it is not Atma. This kind of yukti or the logic they supply. And then they also supply such shrutis. Those people who say that the body is Atma, what do they say? Savaesha purusho narasamaya. This is the shruti that they quote for saying that the deha is Atma. Indriya samvade Chakshuradaya tehevacham uchuhu. See, this is tehevacham uchuhu iti vakyastha tachabdartham chakshuradaya tehevacham uchuhu. All these indriya samvade. So vakya is tehevacham uchuhu. And what is te? Chakshuradaya. So tachabda. All such sense organs beginning from chakshu, all of them said. This sentence that they quote in order to say that indriyas are conscious and therefore they are Atma. Then manaha atma manaha uvacha. This statement is quoted to say that the mind is Atma. Yoyam vijnanamaya. So says vijnanatma atmavadimade pramanattvena uktam katam atma iti yoyam vijnanamaya ityadi shruti vakyam. That Janaka asked this question, katamaha atma. Which one of these is Atma? Yoyam vijnanamaya. One so Hrudisfurat. So the one who is Vijnanamaya, Praneshu, Hrudisfurat. So who is amidst the pranas and one who shines in the heart, he is Atma. That Vijnanamaya is meant to be Vijnana meaning consciousness. But the Bauddhas, they take the Vijnanamaya as Kshanika Vijnana. And so this is a statement that they present in support of their contention. Shunyavadis, what do they say? Asadatmate Shruti Vakyam Kathayati Asadeva idamagra asit. Chandogya. Asadva idamagra asit. This is a Taittiriya Upanishad. Except that asad there means only unmanifest and not non-existent. Manta Buddha Kartru Atmamate. There is a Prashna Upanishad. So Karta, Buddha, what is Prashta, Drashta, Sprashta, Karta, Buddha, Rasai. Then Rasaita, Ghrata. Karta, Buddha. So Vijnanatma, Purusha. This is what Prashna Upanishad says. So that Karta, they quote to say that Atma is Karta. Buddha, other fellows quote to say that Atma is Buddha, meaning the knower. Then says Purana Kartra Atma Mate Eva Atmana Bhoktrutve Pramanatvena Uktam